Welcome to Field of Screams podcast. Today we're going to be talking about the movie The Wailing. This is a Korean film that has gathered a lot of hype whenever it came out. I was very interested in seeing it, but just never had the chance. I love Train to Busan, which is a South Korean film. Whenever I would watch a trailer for this movie, it'd always say, "Oh, awarded this award for this and that." I never really keep tabs on all the awards and stuff, the Emmys and all that, and like the Korean awards and all that. But, if a movie's winning that many awards, it must be good. One thing that always kept me from checking it out, though, because I reviewed Incantation last episode, and I was like, I want to keep the trend of foreign films going. I want to hit The Wailing eventually, and I always wanted to watch it in the past. But one thing that always kind of just kept me is it is 2 hours and 36 minutes long. Like, this is a Lord of the Rings film, and part of me is like, man, why does it need to be that long? Like, what all goes on inside of it? Now, I'll say this right from the get-go. This movie is bizarre. It's bizarre how this movie is put together, because with all the hype and everything, I was expecting just something very terrifying and scary. So I put this movie on, and the first 40 minutes of this film have me cracking up. Like, I'm laughing. It almost seems like the movie's like slapstick comedy. And I was like, what is going on? And one friend who had seen it before, I was like, dude, I've been laughing the first 40 minutes of The Wailing. Like, is this supposed to be a comedy? Like, is there, like, there's slapstick going on here? And he's like, dude, it's a weirdly put together film. I'll just say that. And I was like, okay. Because, like, what it is, the main character is this cop. And this cop, he is the most oafish person you will ever see in any movie. There's a part to where he and another guy are at the police station, and this like scary looking person appears during a thunderstorm. And when that person appears, he starts like screaming like, "Oh!" And he's like ducking behind like the cabinets. And like this goes on for like minutes. And like I'm just laughing at it because just the way he's just like emoting and screaming and yelling, like this is a police officer, someone he's supposed to like serve and protect the public, and this guy's like cowering away. He's yelling at his partner. He's like, "Go get the door, go see what's going on." And of course the person's missing by this point. But this dude, like, he's the type of guy that just, I'm expecting him to trip and fall like every other scene, just because he's so oafish and clumsy. Even his family kind of seems to, he loves his daughter. I'll give him that. He does love his daughter. But there's like a scene to where he's at the house, he's talking, and his wife just kind of looks over and gives him a look, and it cuts to them having sex in the car. And while they're having sex, the daughter walks around the corner and sees them, and he's like, "Oh no!" And he's like freaking out because she saw it. And it's like, what are we doing? Because in between these oafish moments, there's like some legitly just like some unnerving visuals, of like people getting possessed, people in a hospital bed, and you're trying to like figure it all out. And there's like this little subplot of a Japanese man who lives near. Now, granted, the locals are saying like, yeah, I don't know about that Japanese guy. Like, he's crawling around. He was eating a dead deer's I almost said corpse. Basically, like, he's eating roadkill on the side of the road. So, like, initially you're like, ooh, this guy must be up to no good. Like, he must be doing, like, witchcraft or something. And it's even showing, like, visuals of him, like, crawling up to the dead deer and, like, eating it, blood on his mouth. He has, like, yellow eyes. But just, like, as I'm watching it and as the movie's unfolding, because what ends up happening and, like, where this movie takes a turn is the cop's daughter becomes possessed. And kudos to the little girl who plays the possessed, girl. She's like cussing him out. Any word that you should not say to your parents, this girl says it to her dad and her mom. She says it to everyone. The girl's clearly possessed. And there's like other households to like where the oafish dad, while he's a cop, he arrives and there'd be like one person who's like possessed and they like murdered their entire family. And like as you're watching it, something that's kind of cool that the director did is there's just like very subtle little elements that go on at these houses that like as you're watching and you're watching what's going on with the cop, the dad, and his family, you start noticing those little elements placed around their house or like around the village or neighborhood, and you're kind of like, oh, something's afoot here. But yeah, the daughter's possessed. Now, granted, we're going to get spoilery, so, like, I know I've been kind of spoiling. I'm a little late on the spoiler warning, but I'm really going to, like, trend towards the end here because, like, that was, like, what bought me for this film. But, if you haven't seen it, make sure you watch it. If you don't care, go ahead and listen. But, man, like, the ending to this film is something else. And if you're unsure about it, or if you started it and you're like, I think it's dumb, I want to see what this guy has to say, and you haven't seen the ending, give the ending a shot. If there's any part of you that may watch this movie to finish it, make sure you do, because the end is something else to this film. But yeah, I'm going to start like trending in that direction. So obviously I gotta talk about the Japanese man. I already kind of did about all the lore, him eating roadkill, obviously that's bad. But for most of this movie, I was kind of like, I feel like this is a red herring. South Korea and Japan do not get along with each other. There's bad blood, at least from what I've read. It's not like I live in the two areas and I'm like, oh yeah, they just don't like each other. That's just what I read online. There's a lot of historical stuff to it. But I noticed this movie a lot of times, like they're referring to the Japanese man as the Jap. Now, granted, I read online that you shouldn't refer to a Japanese person as a Jap. That's offensive. So I won't do that. But the characters in this film do it quite often. And I didn't even know it was offensive until I read it online, and I was like, oh, I had no idea. I just thought it was like a shortening of the title, Japanese, but whatever. So the Japanese person, because there's literally a moment to where the cop goes to his house and he's like confronting him, and there's just like a lot of like on the nose evil things going on with this guy, where there's like pictures of people that like died, and it's like, is he really the bad one though? I don't know. And the cop's confronting him, like kills his pet dog, and then like wrecks his house, and the entire time the Japanese man's just standing there, just like watching him. And he doesn't, it's not like a evil watching either. So like, while that scene's going on, I'm like, a lot of this has been on the nose and the arrows are pointing at the Japanese man, but I'm unsure if that's going to be the end result here. Like, I almost feel like this film's going to trend towards, something to where maybe the village targets the Japanese man, and maybe they kill him by the end, and then they realize he's not the evil one. And I kind of thought that's where this film was heading. So like that had me tricked the entire time. I was like, yeah, I don't think the Japanese man is really in on it. I was like, maybe he's an actual shaman, and he's not telling these Korean people. Maybe there's a language barrier, something. I was just trying to piece together what was going on there. So that had me tricked pretty well. The next character I feel like I have to talk about is the shaman, who comes in about halfway through the movie. This dude, he reminds me of a diva. He's not dressed very shaman-like. And you could say those are some red flags. But he comes in. And there's a part to where, like, whenever he stumbles in, like, there's this vase with, like, a dead crow. He uncovers it to kind of, like, show the village people that, like, evil stuff is going on. And whenever, like, he showed the vase with the dead crow, or maybe it was, like, a jar full of, like, sauce they were using. He, like, broke it open. There's a dead raven in it or something like that, which is a bad omen. And I was like, okay, this guy's clearly good. Like, he spotted the evil omen and showed it to the people, which in hindsight, maybe he was releasing more evil into the village by doing that. But this guy's strutting around and he's like, hey, I need help with my daughter. Do you think you can help? And he says something to the lines of like, yeah, $10,000. Like, well, that's the cost. I about said $10,000, baby, but he didn't say it like that. But that's just kind of the vibes I get from the dude. He's got a man bun, and he's just very like seems full of himself the way he walks around. It just seems very unstereotypical for a shaman. At least from what I've seen from movies, and just, it's not like I see a lot of shaman, Korean shaman walking around me all the time, but, just what I would assume. Now, something that really bothered me and thought that I was just getting to an old age is when the shaman decides to put on the seance for the younger daughter. And oh my gosh, they turn the volume up to 11 during this scene. It was just constant, like, things making noises, birds flapping their wings, him chopping off birds' heads and doing all this, like, crazy stuff. And it's like constant noise, the daughter screaming at the top of her lungs. And I literally grabbed the remote and I turned the volume down a few notches. I was like, I just feel like I can't. Literally, I was getting over a sinus infection during the time, so my ears felt a little plugged, and like I felt like my head was like rattling during the seance ceremony. And then once he's done with that, they're like, "Yeah, so what do you think? Is she going to be better?" And he goes, "Well, we're going to do like the mega seance next." And I was like, don't tell me he's going to be making all that racket again. And what do you know? The dude's like bringing in like bulls and cattle. And like this ceremony goes on for like 15 minutes. And I legitimately thought, I'm like, am I just getting old? Can I not experience movies anymore without being like, it's too loud? I noticed there were some complaints on like Reddit that also said they found his seances to be very obnoxious and loud and just unbearable, which I think the director of the movie made that conscious decision, which, when you find out the end, it makes perfect sense. Now, during the mega seance, there is a moment to where, because this big seance was supposed to target the Japanese man, which it shows him in his little hut, and he starts doing like a little seance or spell himself. And it's, to me, like, part of this still doesn't just clearly make sense to me, like the aspect of this part, because like while this is going on, like the shaman's doing his thing, the Japanese man starts doing his thing. He seems clearly weakened, but then this girl like walks in. And this girl was in the beginning of the movie. She talked to the cop. She was throwing rocks like in the cop's direction, which is again a little bit of a little biblical wordplay. He who cast the first stone. She was playing off of that, though I was laughing during that scene because the oafish cop was like, "Hey, quit throwing rocks. You could hurt someone. Hey, if you throw another rock again, I'm going to be really mad. Hey, would you knock that off?" And it was almost like a video game character with just how many different expressions, or, him yelling at the girl to quit casting rocks in his direction. It was making me laugh during that moment. But during the seances, she steps into the Japanese man's hut. Now, I don't know if like her presence sabotaged what he was doing. I also know during this moment a zombie gets brought back to life. I think it's this moment. But after these seances, like the cop and his friends, like they go wandering around, they stumble upon a zombie that like kicks their butts for like 20 minutes. Like it goes on a while. But during this, like they're chasing the Japanese man. The Japanese man sees the woman and is like terrified. So like towards the end of the film, they have it going in different directions to where you're like, I don't know if the woman's evil. I don't know if the Japanese man's evil. I don't know what the shaman's doing. And I kept going back and forth so much. And like I had it in my head, I'm like, the woman is evil. Like it's gotta be the woman. Like she terrified the Japanese man. He's gonna end up being innocent, and it's gonna be this big thing to where these Korean people mistreated the Japanese guy, and it was this lady who was like a wolf in sheepskin this entire time, and that's what it's gonna be. And like it gets to the end, and the end is like literally like it's very good. It's what pushes this movie. Like if I were to give it an award, one, it'd be for the cinematography. But two, it would be just for like how it takes like all these themes and the story of it all. And it's just like the ending's just like this nice bow to where most of this movie I did not find scary. But the end, like, did creep me out. I will give it that. It did, and it just did a very good job. Like, so basically, the shaman, he's trying to call the dad to tell the dad to not go home. No, 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 no. He told the dad to go home. He's like, you need to come home, you need to do this, blah, blah, blah. And then there's a moment, and it's like done so well. Like, the shaman's walking and just stumbles onto this woman. And the woman, like, she takes like 2 steps towards him. His nose starts bleeding like crazy. And then he just starts vomiting like everywhere. And it's like, oh man, like, she's a demon. She's using her demon powers to like make him do that. And he like runs away, like freaking out, scared as can be. It shows him like speeding home. He performs like a seance at his house. Bugs are going crazy while he's driving home. Very good sequence. And then the cop stumbles upon her, and she's telling him, like, listen, you can't go home. You have to stay here. Whatever you do, do not go home. And during this, it's like showing clips of like his daughter being possessed, being very, very weird. You know, things are escalating. And she's like, do not go home. If you go home, it's all going to be for nothing. And it's going back and forth, and you're like, who do you trust? And, you know, of course, the shaman's like, dude, you better get to your house. And it's like, I would, like, I myself, I was like, I would trust the shaman, definitely. And, like, all the wordplay and stuff, like, it's so good. There's a young priest who is a friend of the cop. He stumbles into like a little underground area. I think maybe it was like the Japanese man's cabin. I'm trying to remember, but basically he walks in on the Japanese man, and he's basically like, hey, like, I'm coming here to talk to you, like, I think you are the demon. And like the Japanese man's just like talking to him, and like the cop decides to ignore the woman, and he goes home. And as soon as he does this, like, you know, things are escalating, it's building up, and the Japanese man, he literally like turns into the devil himself. And there's like a fantastic quote to where like the young priest was like, if you say what you are, or something like that, then maybe I'll just walk out of here. And the Japanese man turns and he goes, what makes you think I'll let you walk out of here? And then like basically he just starts lecturing this priest, and his like, as he's talking, his ears are getting pointier, his eyes are glowing, and it was awesome special effects that they did to make him appear as Satan. And then like as it goes, you see the woman who just looks sad, the dad dies, and it's just like this big tragic ending. Literally, you have to, if you go on Reddit, there's so many theories on like what the end of this movie truly means. There's some people that they think that the woman is still evil. There's some people like me who think the shaman and the Japanese guy, because there's a lot of signs that basically indicate that they are evil. It's kind of open interpretation, but I just think there's enough evidence to where it's like, yeah, you know, the shaman wasn't a good dude. He was clearly behind it. The Japanese man, he's clearly the devil. I mean, like, unless I'm missing some type of, you know, stuff here, but there was even a deleted scene to where, like, at the end, it shows a shaman, like, standing alongside the road, and, like, a Japanese man drives up in his truck, looks at the shaman man gets in, they drive off together. So they're in cahoots. They're clearly not up to anything good. So, yeah, no, I don't know if I described that ending very good, but I definitely, my favorite thing about this movie is the ending. Again, it's very bizarre. First 40 minutes, I'm cracking up laughing. I think it's hilarious. Then it hits a very serious mark, and it's very just like, I don't know, the whole thing was interesting. I was into it. It didn't feel like 2 hours and 36 minutes. But granted, I think I watched it on Tubi, so I might have spent like 3 hours watching it, but still I had a good time. And I love the ending of it. The ending I thought was like very unsettling and does a good job. You know, was it as scary as something like Incantation that I just reviewed? No. But not everything has to be, you know, Incantation. You know, this movie's good for what it is. Now, granted, you know, all the hype surrounding it, I did expect something a little more scarier. But instead what I got was just a pretty good film that, you know, again, is just very bizarre on how it's built. Like, it's funny, and then it's very serious, and then it's creepy, unsettling, and kind of scary. So yeah, that's my review of The Wailing. Tell me your thoughts, and if you have any theories on the ending and what it all means, because I still don't have it all pieced together. Like it seems like just a pretty. There's a lot of plot points to cover in this film, and I know I myself, like as I'm preparing, because I watched it a couple days ago, and I felt like there's just a couple of things like I'm forgetting. But again, I know on Reddit there are just some like really good theories that put it out there. So if you want, a word for word, like a sure thing on what it means, go on Reddit and look up The Wailing, and you'll get some pretty good answers there. Because I was reading a lot of them, and there's some I really liked, some I found that were kind of reaching. But yeah, overall, like it just gives you can see a lot of people's different interpretations of the film, and that's what's cool. So yeah. If you're still listening, I greatly appreciate it. If you could give this video a like, that'd be awesome. Gets it out to other people. Comment, tell me what you think about this film. And again, thank you so much for listening. I think my next one's going to be The Medium. I wanted to hit another foreign film. The trailer looks pretty creepy, so I'm excited to see what that looks like. Until next time, guys.